Hi guys, Mike and Stacy here. As you know, I'm in the lending business and Mike is a realtor. We all know that, right? Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is what's going on in the market, what's going on, how it seems like that the press keeps saying that we're going to have a crash, this kind of stuff. Guys, this is not what's happening.
So let's talk about that for a second, because many of us lived through 2008. And just as a warning, we may throw out some terms and things that may not completely make sense to you folks, but that's okay. Just ask us what we mean in the comments. So in 2008, let me explain what happened so you understand why this is not that. Although this is a dumpster fire right now, but we'll get to that here in a second. The inventory in 2008, well, let me put it this way. The federal government forced the banks to make loans to people who could not afford to pay them back. And they did that for various good intentions. At least that's what they claimed. If you want, go back and search YouTube for Barney Frank and 2008 lending, and you'll get the hearings and things that occurred, and so you'll understand what happened before 2008 that set it up for the crash. But anyway, the builders overbuilt. There was tons of supply. The banks lend a ton of money to people you might remember the term ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets.
Subprime lending.
That's what that is. You're not what we call A paper. So in other words, there's some exceptions being made to give you money.
Challenges.
In that case, there was a lot of exceptions. But anyway, when those folks started to default, have you ever seen the movie The Big Short? That addresses it, but really not as much as I would like in terms of the federal government involvement. But anyway, it addresses what occurred. And as they defaulted, so those homes became available, the banks took them back, right? Because that's what happens. You're begging a bank or a lender to give you the money to purchase a home. I mean, let's just be real about it. They ended up taking those back.
Banks can't continue to do that. That's the issue.
Well, they had a ton of problems, or a ton of inventory, which of course led to a ton of problems. Right. Additionally, the builders were sitting on a bunch of inventory that was yet to be sold. So we had massive, almost mind-boggling amounts of homes available, which crashed the market. In addition, we're not even going to get into the default on the derivatives and how all that went down globally. And that's what was the real economic impact was, not just on the housing market, but on our world specifically. There was an oversupply to the tune that is almost hard to even figure out. Okay, let's fast forward to now. What we have now is we have years of cheap money. Money at rates that
should never have been that low for that long.
Right. There's a fair argument to be made that after 2008, when we were trying to stimulate the economy, that we should have been gently raising the interest rate at the window. I'll say the window, and that's the place that the banks borrow money from the federal government in order to lend it out. Okay, but when I talk about Fed rate, I'm talking about what the rates lend, or what the rates are that the Fed's lending to the banks.
Which is different than what
you're paying.
As clients would be paying for that mortgage, basically.
Right. You'll always be paying more than whatever, clearly, because the banks are there to make money just as we all are. I'm not going to get into that, but higher than what the rate is that the Fed lends to the bank. Okay. So make a long story longer. We're in a situation now where those rates were not gently raised over time. And now it's been we're 15 years separated from that event. And the Fed is seeing inflation suddenly spike. In other words, we were fine chugging along until suddenly realized that our money, as spending continued, that prices suddenly shot up. And the Fed wants to cool that off. They like inflation for reasons, again, we're not going to get into. We're not economists. But the bottom line is they want it at a much lower rate. And so what they do is they raise the interest rates at which they lend to the banks.
They just raised them way too fast.
And they raised them very quickly. Over the last 12 months, we've more than doubled what the lending rate is, the nominal rate. Again, your lending rate will differ depending on your personal situation, being employment, debt, etc. But now here we are. So why is this different than 2008? Well, it's different than 2008 because there's a different reason for why we're here in terms of a market crash that has been predicted in real estate. And Moody's did this about 3 weeks ago. They said there was going to be a 25% decrease in home values coming like immediately, specifically in our market in the Phoenix metro area. I will tell you that isn't the case from everything I'm seeing, simply because we still don't have the inventory. The inventory was so low that just getting to a normal market would take a tripling or quadrupling of where we were at our lowest point. And we've only maybe doubled to tripled where we were. So we're not anywhere near what I would say is a genuine buyer's market. We're seeing some concessions from sellers because the rates have gone up so much that the sellers are willing to kick in to help buy down your rate. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, but that's also changing because interest rates have actually come down a full percent from, say, December, which is interesting. So now the seller concessions in different states aren't as aggressive as they are here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different. Every state is drastically different.
That's something we need to reiterate is I'm going to speak pretty much to our market here. I have some touch into other markets in the Southwest, but when I speak, I'm speaking strictly on this Phoenix metro area since real estate is absolutely local. They're not making any more of it. So what we are still seeing, however, is we're seeing that sellers are commanding, and we're seeing our wealth in the places that you'd want to live are still stable. They're not growing at an exponential rate, so we're not seeing them skyrocket 20% year over year, but they are flat, if not increasing, say, 0.5% to 1%, right? I mean, that's still going up. There's just not going to be this 25% decrease in values here simply because there's not enough inventory. Remember, inventory is what aided in the 2008 fiasco. We don't have it. And builders are moving right now from single family homes to multifamily homes to try to capitalize on rent because rents are sky high. And that's the other thing, folks, is that rents are sky high because there's nowhere to rent. There's no inventory. So keep that in mind. If you're waiting for this smoking deal like there was in 09 and 10, it's not going to materialize, at least not with any of the numbers I see, because there's no outstanding inventory to flood the market. And the banks haven't been lending to people who can't pay things back. They've only been lending to people who can. So there will be some defaults. There will be some foreclosures, but not anywhere near the levels that we saw in 08.
Agreed. So the other thing is people are afraid to buy because they feel like the market's going to crash. More than likely, it's not going to crash. Of course, this is an opinion. We've both been in the business for over 25 years. But the other thing is, think about this. Your landlord raises your rent every year. So by the time, if you took in an amount of, say you bought a home today for what you pay for rent now, you would be able to refinance if rates go down again and probably be where you're going to be at right now on rent opposed to when the landlord raises it. Does that make sense, or does that totally not make sense?
No, it does make sense. And again, to our argument, and to really kind of to round this out and to finish this up, to Stacy's point, is that your rents are going to continue to go up because there just isn't anywhere to rent. So if I guess to really make this simple is if you're waiting to buy because you think there's going to be a crash, don't.
Right,
if you're
correct.
waiting to buy
That's
because
easier to say it like he said
because
it.
you're afraid there's going to be a crash, don't.
Right.
Otherwise, I would never tell you not to look for a deal, and I would never tell you to not worry about making sure that your job is secure and you're happy where you are. But now is probably a good time. The rates are going to go down a little bit because we're crashing banks right now, but they're not going to be like they were. So
Right.
don't hang out hoping for that to be the case.
True. Everybody always wants to wait for the lower and then they miss it. They want to wait till the house prices go down and then they go up, and vice versa. Same with interest rates. If you're ready to buy, let's do it. We can help you.
All right,
Have
guys.
a great day.
Bye.